Hi, and welcome to this lecture on cross-curriculum priorities. Now, as a reminder, within junior secondary, we teach according to the Australian curriculum. So the Australian curriculum is divided up into the 8 key learning areas, one of which is science. So what we've got is the Australian curriculum can be thought of as a 3-dimensional object. So what we've got is all the curriculum areas, science, English, mathematics, 8 key learning areas. Running across those themes and through all key learning areas are 2 other important ideas. What we've got are the cross-curriculum priorities, which we're going to talk about today, but also the general capabilities. So you've got the key learning areas, we've got the cross-curriculum priorities, and we've also got the 7 general capabilities, so that all 3 of those elements are critical components of the Australian curriculum. Now, what are those curriculum priorities and how should you plan for them? They are the topic of the lecture today. Now, there are actually 3 of them, so we're going to go through and describe each one. Now, the first one that we're going to look at is what I have recalled First Nations histories and cultures. Now, if you look at the documentation, it is Australian and Torres Strait Islander, or ATSI, histories and cultures. Firstly, I have a problem with using ATSI that way, so I've just renamed it First Nations. But also when it comes to science, we're going to talk about the science as opposed to the histories and culture. But let's talk about this one in a bit more detail, because there's 3 key elements to dealing with this particular cross-curriculum priority. Now, when we have a look at histories and cultures of the First Nation people, we need to look at and understand how we are tapping into those 3 elements. Country, in terms of exploring the deep connection to country. Now, notice that's a big C, deep connection of country, of people to the country, but also the unique belief systems and how that plays out within ideas such as the dreaming. The next element is understanding the people. So the different ways of being and knowing, epistemology, ontology, and obviously the praxis which comes along with that. The 3rd key element of this particular priority is looking at the culture. So we're looking at things like the diversity of the First Nations, which existed pre-1788, and also the unique kinship structures, which help structure those societies. So when we have a look at the document itself, we can see that the cross-curriculum is broken down into those 3 things: country, culture, and people, and there are various elements that we should be tapping into to make sure that we are addressing those things. Now, as I was saying earlier, science is kind of unique because we're not really dealing with histories or cultures, we deal with science. So when we look at the science curriculum, we look at it through that particular lens. Now, if you want to look more about what ACARA has to say about this particular priority, then go ahead and check out that link. Go to the ACARA website. There's, yes, there you go, it's going to play. Let's move on, okay? So the 2nd priority is around sustainability. So this is another context that we should be incorporating into our practice. So we should be looking at opportunities to have context or themes around sustainability. And within sustainability, there are also 3 areas. We should be looking at the systems which make systems sustainable ecologically and financially, economically, for example. We should be looking at the various worldviews, and that intimately ties back into Indigenous worldviews, which tend to have more sustainability focus to them, but also futures, having that futures perspectives of how we can move towards a more sustainable future. So it's not just about examining, it's about students thinking ahead about how we can be more sustainable. And the last one, priority, that we should be looking at is, particularly as we enter and we progress more through this century, is our engagement with Asia. Okay? And so there are 3 things that we need to be looking at there, tapping into when we're deciding about context to base our teaching around, and that is about Asia and its diversity, understanding the people and the culture, looking at the achievements and contributions of people of Asia, not only in ancient time but also in modern time as well, and also just the overall engagement of how we fit into our neighbours over here in this part of the world. So I'll leave those for you to read in more detail in your own time. Thank you very much.